Ladies and gentlemen, please charge your glasses, whatever that may mean, while you have the opportunity. Drinks and canapé will cease at 7:30 and resume, however, after the program is over. So if you're good, you behave, you can do that. So let me introduce my wife, Gillian, and she will speak from this point.
Will I? Thank you very much, darling. Okay. Thank you. Most of you know who I am. This isn't because I'm famous, but so I'm Gillian. I'm Gillian Bickley, one of the publishers of Proverse Hong Kong, and with Werner, founder of the 2 Proverse Prizes. There are people here who haven't been before, so I just mention briefly something about Proverse. So the books Proverse publishes come to us as standalone publishing proposals or as competition entries. They include books with Hong Kong subject matter and books with international subject matter, books by Hong Kong writers and books by international writers. Mainly, we publish books written in English, but some are translated into English. We do also publish some Chinese books. We have to rely very much on our honorary Chinese books editor for that, because I can't read Chinese. Our writers have a variety of mother tongues. I think this is delightful. And those languages include Afrikaans, Cantonese, Czech, Danish, English, French, German, Igbo, Maori, Putonghua, Romanian, Swedish, Turkish, and Urdu. Some of our writers are initially inspired by their love for reading, others by a love of writing. All have powerful desires to understand and express themselves, to communicate and engage with others through words. This year, we're publishing for the first time an anthology of poems, this is the anthology, containing work by 20 writers from around the world, including Hong Kong, selected from among all entries for the inaugural Proverse Poetry Prize for single poems. Both the Proverse Prize for book-length work and the Proverse Poetry Prize, single poems, are international prizes. The prizes are administered from Hong Kong by Proverse Hong Kong and are open to anyone in the world, new, emerging, and established writers who are at least 18 on the date they sign the entry documents. Entries are anonymous and the playing field is entirely level. In case any of you present here would like to enter for one or both of the prizes, or have friends who would be interested, or would like to enter again this year, here's basic information about this year's competitions. The Proverse Prize for book-length work is already open for entry, and the closing date is the 14th of June. The opening date for the Poetry Prize for single poems is the 7th of May. This is our wedding anniversary, and this helps me to remember when the competition begins. And the closing date is the 30th of June. Now, one of the main events of this evening is to announce the final results for the Proverse Prize 2016. I do mean 2016. It's unpublished writing, so that's why the process takes a little while. This year we're also doing it a bit later than usual. So normally we might announce it in November, but this time it's now, and Werner is going to make the announcement. Okay, darling? Okay, we have to speak into that.
Those awarded the Proverse Prize receive careful preparation for publication, international publication, and distribution, as well as a cash prize, which is awarded at the time a winning book is published. As decided each year on the basis of the quality of the submissions, there may also be a number of supplementary prizes. These consist of careful preparation for publication and international publication and distribution, themselves with a considerable cash value. As in previous years, entries were received from around the world, and the standard was very high. In past years, the judges have recommended that the prize be shared among 2 writers. This time, the competition was equally hot, but for the first time, there is a single winner of the Proverse Prize. The winner of the 2016 Proverse Prize is Ivy Ngeow for Cry of the Flying Rhino, a novel set in Malaysia. Warm congratulations to Ms. Ngeow.
Ivy has sent a brief message from London, where she lives, and Werner's going to read it.
Hi, everyone.
Hi everyone. I'm thrilled to have won this prestigious award, the 2016 Proverse Prize. It has really motivated and inspired me to write more. An international prize like this is important to promote excellence in literature and the love for books. I would like to thank everyone at Proverse, the judges, Professor Werner Bickley, and especially Dr. Gillian Bickley. They have worked so hard on this competition from the start. Lastly, I am grateful for the support of my husband, my parents, my friends and family, without whom I would not have written a word.
Thank you to all.
Well, thank you to Werner for reading Ivy's message, and congratulations to Ivy again in London. One supplementary prize has also been awarded.
The winner of a supplementary prize in the 2016 Proverse Prize competition is Hayley Ann Solomon for her poetry collection Celestial Promise.
So Hayley has sent us a message from New Zealand, where she lives, and Werner will read this.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to the judges in Andorra who selected the manuscript for publication. I'm absolutely delighted, and especially that it was in the genre of poetry, my first love. Thank you to the editors in Hong Kong who've been absolutely incredible, meticulous, scrupulous, and very insightful in the editing of the work. I can't say thank you enough. And finally, have a lovely, lovely evening, everyone, and I hope to be with you in Hong Kong in November for the launch of Celestial Promise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Werner, for reading Hayley's message. Now, Werner is now going to acknowledge and present prizes to the first, second, and third placed winners in the inaugural Proverse Poetry Prize single poems. Now, this is very complicated. I need to focus on it. So, let me bend it for you. So, cameras at the ready. Vaughan. So Vaughan Rapatahana, first prize winner of the Proverse Poetry Prize, the inaugural prize 2016. So Vaughan, would you like to come out and would you like to give this to me?
Yes, indeed.
And, face it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Vaughan. Well done. Now, Maria Elena Blanco, the second prize winner, is unfortunately not here. She lives in Austria and 2 other countries. But she has wished us all the best for the evening, and she hopes to be here next year. We're very lucky that we have 3 third prize winners present tonight, and I'm going to call them up one by one. So, Joy Al-Sofi.
Congratulations.
Well done, Joy. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Gili, Haimovich.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Luisa, Ternau. Thank you very much, Johnny. And now, Werner will present to the authors who are launching their books tonight the first copy, their very first copy of their new book. So, Dragoş Ilca with Hong Kong Hollow.
Hi. Just sit over there.
Oh, yes.
Birgit Bunzel Linder. Bliss of Bewilderment. Thank you very much. Oh, and the next one is me. Will you present me with a book, darling?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Come in.
I haven't seen this before.
So now, so again, congratulations to everybody. We're very, very lucky to have made contact with so many talented authors and poets. We're delighted that so many of you are here tonight. Thank you very, very much indeed. We hope to have continuing friendship, to see lots more poems and books that you've written, and publish all of them. And see you again when we do that. So now, we're going to hear readings of poems selected from the entries for the Proverse Poetry Prize 2016. So first of all, winner of a place in the Proverse Poetry Prize anthology, Akin Jeje.
All right, give me a moment, folks. I have found my place here. Now, I'd written this poem years ago, and I was inspired by the rain, and as it turns out, it's quite appropriate for this time of year and the weather we've been having lately. But there's beauty in everything, including the rain, although after 2 weeks of this, you just want it to, go away. But, as I said, I saw a certain beauty in the hues of the storm. Mongkok, Tuesday night, a crash from the smog, a splintering of china plates, and it has only just begun to roar. Dark colors, ashen and slate, a fresh shower of rain, a little pain, solitary gray knit middle-aged woman, weeping on a crowded train. Deep colors, violet and agate, steady torrent of splashing streaks unbounded by joy, couples sealed bright lips at MTR Yaumate. Jaded eyes dart from throngs, knowing but coy, to add to hues of the storm. Setting colors, sapphire and loam. Aftermath of the evening's relentless downpour, leaves bellies sated, eyes bedazzled by neon slashes and chops and hordes and shops, deaf from the cacophony of bass to razor soprano tones on a million mobile phones. Concrete still tinkles and sparkles with the last refrain from the night's fallen rain. But it's time before the indigo cloak, the pearl delta smoke appears. Time to go home. But not just yet, y'all. Thank you.
So Susan Lavender, winner of a place in the Proverse Poetry Prize anthology.
Right, this poem that I've written contrasts the hardy generation of my parents who lived through the Second World War with my own generation, the hippie generation, which is much less resilient than them. My generation came of age with the Woodstock concert in 1969, and some of our more prominent members, started dying at that time around the age of 27, and you probably know who they are. And they formed what we called the Club 27 or 27 Club. The rest of us, like me, who unfortunately survived into this great millennium of the 2000s, started dying out last year in 2016 around the age of 69. And we are the 69 Club, which is the name of my poem. Okay, so the fighter generation was born in the wake of World War I, suffered hunger and the Depression, spent their heyday fighting and believing in World War II. They lived frugally in austerity and remained strong. Their sons and daughters instead were flower children, embracing peace, rejecting their parents' wars as wrong. They lived their hedonistic lives to the full, perhaps to excess, with wine, weed, and song. Their heyday was 1969's Summer of Love, 3 days of peace and music under the symbol of the dove. Old soldiers never die, but flowers fade quickly. So goodbye, Bowie, Rickman, and Fry. The flowers that blossomed in 1969 are withering now at age 69, while the fighters that survived under war's bitter bond continue to live past their flower children well into their 90s and beyond. So now we, the hippies, are leaving. We salute you, the Y-Gen. Your future looms. And we entrust to you, our aged parents, grieving for us, the flower gen. Because flowers can't bloom in 21st century technology fumes. That's my poem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you.
So Sam Powney, winner of a place in the Proverse Poetry Prize anthology. Come on, Sam.
Evening, everyone. So this poem was written last year in the very hot summer, and at the same time, political tensions about the South China Sea were hotting up. So that's basically what this is about. Does the ocean wave? Dark, unsettled tarpaulin, grey swathes twitch taut, sharp gold glints. The sun has got his hat on. Is he coming out to play? Exhausted aircon drips. A melded shirtman steams. Do the hills rejoice? Silent monochrome humps. Wisps of cloud hiss, disappear. Was the storm a blast? Ice branches in summer sky. Sudden, dumbstruck, blackout blocks. Which land owns the rocks? They mule to the eastern sea. In giant plastic gyres, her belly starts to heave.
Thank you very much, Sam. So now Mathura from Estonia, thank you very much for coming such a very long way. And thank you also to the Cultural Endowment of Estonia for helping to sponsor Mathura to come.
Hello, everybody. It's a poem called Light of Bones, which is dedicated to a Swedish poet, Per Hansson. And it is much about retrieving oneself from the outside world so as to find inspiration in the inner one. You know that summer will come and spread its deceptive warmth all over the shadows. You know that rye will come up in the fields and suffer drought after drought for your lack of desire. In order to be alive, You need to walk out on the open field above the heavens valley and scythe your self-awareness with a single strike. In order to write, you need to go back to the house where hay grows in through the windows, wind flutters the moldy curtains, and cracks in the floorboards let the coolness of your spirits then seep in. Slowly, you crawl out of the stinking quagmire of welfare and feel your bones go on growing, growing inwards, filling with light. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mathura. Mathura will be reading again at the Hong Kong Writers' Circle on the 2nd of May. The information about that is on the Proverse website. Simon, I'm sure everybody will be welcome to come.
Yes, very welcome to come.
Thank you very much. So Luisa Ternau, third prize winner of the Proverse Poetry Prize 2016.
Good evening. Okay, good evening. I will just read the poem. Yeah. Okay. Spring in my heart. Okay, yes. Thank you. Spring in my heart, spring everywhere, imposed on myself like artificial snow on the Alps when the tourist season is on. The time for blooming will also come, with flowers growing on the slopes, uncontemplated by the skiing crowds. Spring will be only for the moon and for the stars, blossoms remaining unnoticed on the deserted ski run. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luisa. And now, asking Gili Haimovich to come up for a third time, third prize winner of the Proverse Poetry Prize, we'd like to acknowledge the Israeli Consulate General in Hong Kong for helping sponsor Gili to come. Thank you.
Well, can you hear me well? I think the environment is a big world, and I prefer to look at my more immediate environment in urban scenery and see if I can learn anything from it. To look at the cracks that the tree makes through the concrete, to look at the sea glimmering through the streets and the high-rising buildings, to look at the stray cats and the birds and see how they make it through in the city the same way that I am. Pedestrians cheer. We, the pedestrians, are of a different caste. In urban scenery, among the humans, ours is the closest to animal nature. Much heavier than birds and much rarer, we migrate from one side of the pavement to the other. We are the only species that gathers in random flocks, even just to cross the road, supporting one another, standing by a traffic light. Come humid heat wave or polar plunge, we become single, singular, and less, just like the birds in need of breaking free from cages, but out and about, even if what is out there that we're so keen about is as ambiguous. We turn each bus seat, every subway car, into a temporary nest, a home, even though public. You'll recognize us, the only ones comfortable biting a sandwich on the move. Watch our legs, salute the changing seasons reflected on our skin, our faces. When we come to your homes, oasis, respect us the same way you'd respect a truth-telling mirror. You, air-conditioned people, soon the planet will be solely yours, will be extinct, no better than any other breed. We, the pedestrians, with all modesty, the servants of modern lives, for what is a main street, mainstream, without its sides, its sidewalks, and its sidewalkers. So, on this note, I would like to say, well, at least you can hear me eventually. I'm happy to be a winner of some sort, but I'm happy to be a third place and still be an alternative. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Gili. So now Joy Al-Sofi, third prize winner of the Proverse Poetry Prize competition. Joy has a cold. She's going to do her best.
Yes. Thank you. White water. Mother bears alone with cubs at riverside. The drop at the falls is half what it was. Foaming white water where salmon and bears collect is now neck deep and empty. Much effort to brace against the wake of the crazed, unstoppable current. Perhaps the rest have tired, eaten enough, taken a chance to hone up on hibernation skills. Bears will waken and return. These spawning salmon will not. Soon the summer run will end. Rivers flow without end. Does the river hibernate in the sea? Does it rest in the deeps till it's time to rise again? Will the seas rise? Will the bears wake in winter dark? Will the Pacific circle of salmon come round again? Will we know when we have seen the last one? Will the ice melt? Will we wake up alone? Will we wake up?
Thank you very much, Joy. And now Vaughan Rapatahana, winner of the Proverse Poetry Prize 2016.
Okay, kia ora. First, before I read the poem, I must say I'm very honoured, proud and very humbled to be appointed the winner of the inaugural Proverse Poetry Prize. And I must say now, I wish the prize all the best in future years. I'm sure it will flourish even further and greater and have even more international entries over the years. So thank you to Werner and Gillian. 2 points about the poem before I read it. We live, when we're in Hong Kong, in Tinian State, way out in Tin Soi Wai, Northwest Territories. If you're lucky on a good day and the glutinous pall is not obfuscating your eyes, you can see Shenzhen across the water. And we live high up in the building, and we can see some interesting people down below. And this poem is based on one eccentric individual in particular, with a slight amalgam of other eccentric individuals who flourish around that vicinity. And the last point about here is one word in the poem I'll explain to you. It's siempre, Spanish for always. It's also been transliterated into Tagalog, albeit it's spelt with a Y, and it means in Tagalog, of course. And that's a key word to the poem. So I will read Tinyan Don. I swear I saw him again yesterday. It was deep down from my 30th floor windows, cresting high in Tinyan Estate. Churning his arms circulatory, yes, rather like some Lilliputian windmill. He airstrode an errant Tai Chi. He seemed to be chanting something, but what could I decipher from my own aerial roost? He was homunculus to me. This morning, giving up trying to spy Shenzhen through the perennial glutinous pall, I plodded home across the motley square, replete with cheap lots haggled at the local market. There he was once more, spinly beneath a widescreen hat, this time motionless, staring silent across the nulla like some smitten mannequin. Cho-san! I smiled, twice it was. Lei hoi im hoi-san? He maybe blinked, offered nothing in return, except a flourish of the plastic fan he always stowed inside a time-warped tunic, 3 times the size of him, fixated in some quixotic quest only he could fathom. Yet, his riposte captured me 2 meters further on, about to key the entrance code. Sempre, it was, gifted through his skinny whiskers, nothing more. Sempre only. Sempre indeed. Kia ora, thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we come to the single author books that are being launched this evening. First, there's a message from Laura Solomon in New Zealand. And Werner, you know the pattern now. Werner is going to read Laura's message.
Laura writes that brain graft is based on her own experiences with a brain tumor. The idea of having a brain graft occurred to her as something that may be possible in the future, and she began imagining what would happen if such a transplant took place. In this play, the upper-class lady who gets a brain tumor has a segment of a working-class lady's brain implanted. The play was influenced by Pygmalion and Educating Rita. The play also serves as commentary on the British social classes and their dynamics.
Well, we wish Laura well, good health, and continued writing. So congratulations to you. Well, we know whose turn it is now. I think, whose turn is it now? Well, I think it's Dragoş Ilca with his first book, Hong Kong Hollow.
We made it, boys. All right, so this has nothing to do with the book, but I'm just going to read it anyway. So, is he real? That's how I sort of titled my talk. And it goes like this. Recently, I've been starting to use what I like to call the writer card. Say I'm having a coffee or a drink with another sitting across me. When the conversation slows down and when the hand is itching to get to the pocket or the purse to reach for the phone and the end of it all, I mention in passing something about writing a book. I'm saved. The person goes, "Are you a writer?" And then I say something like, "Yes, I wrote a book a while ago." "And is it published?" "Well, no, you have to see it's very difficult to publish. And you know, being a writer is more of a state of mind. So, yeah. Of course, after today, the script will be a bit different. You can order it online. You can find it here and there. And please tell your friends to buy it. And do you know there's a discount on bulk purchase? And do you have a pen so I can sign it? Back to the coffee scene. The immediate question that follows is, what is the book about? And here we come to, well, the interesting part. H.K. Hollow doesn't really have a concrete plot or solid character motivation, so to say. It's more of a comic book where we need to fill the spaces between the panels. But that's not what I would normally say. Normally I'd be going with, it's about a guy and two girls. It's about a guy living in Amsterdam with a girl, and then the guy goes to Hong Kong where he meets another girl. He breaks up with the girl in Amsterdam, and then I mentioned there are ghosts that live in characters' rooms. So it's about you, right? The other person would say, you've lived in Amsterdam, and now you're here in Hong Kong, so it's basically an autobiography. Is it real? Well, yes and no. It's funny how all these big questions all have a yes or no, a yes and no kind of answer. Of course, now it would have been a good time to get into a conversation on how literature imitates art, how fiction is at the same time just a bunch of words on the page, the dangers of confounding fiction for real life and vice versa, how difficult it is to turn one's life into literature because on one hand you want to say everything, and then on the other you have to get rid of the things because it's not literature and so on. Instead, I just come back to my yes and no once more. Yes, at a certain point in time I might have lived in Amsterdam and in Hong Kong. There were some girls as far as I can remember, but that was a while ago. I might have been a bit sad. I might have went a bit crazy partying here on exchange. I might have written Hong Kong Hollow for therapeutic purposes. Why does it matter if it's real? Because I want to know, the other would say. Did everything you wrote in this book happen in real life? Some of it happened for sure. Some of it didn't, I would say, trying to sound deep. But which part is real and which part is fiction, I cannot really tell anymore. So thank you for listening to my rant. And thank you for, Gillian and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Right. Should I read a bit or just? Huh? I mean, just to sort of substantiate my claims. Here I go. I'm just going to read a passage from like somewhere in the first third of the book. It's going to be very brief. So, I went to a party last night. A forest party with a theme, animism. Strange if you think Hong Kong has the exact opposite of an animus, a soul. It's hard to believe there are forests in a place like Hong Kong. But once you take a 30-minute bus ride, you find yourself in a place with no electricity, no signs, just the jungle and concrete paths, much like the yellow brick road. So we walked the path for 20 minutes, held by our smartphones, wondering if we got off at the right stop. The silence around us took the form of a sharp buzzing in our ears, nightbirds, and the rustling wind. The music was getting louder and louder, and we came to a clearing where lights hung across the trees and a huge projector showing random fractals, and Gandhi was somewhere on the screen too. Around us, the people were dressed up like animals. Lions, zebras, cats, bears, druids, nymphs, and other creatures danced to the beats of some Hong Kong DJ. We took the bottles of whiskey stored in our coats and the pills and started downing it all. The party and the glow sticks got intense. I don't know exactly when, but the music melted with the images on the screen, and the glow stick turned into souls, sprites of life thrown from one end of the clearing to another. An hour or so in, I saw the lion kissing the zebra on the neck, but my mind was already jumping to the circle of life. The druid took some nymphs away and dragged them into the trees nearby. The beer chugged vodka like there was no tomorrow. And the projections made us believe we have but a small part to play in this world, that we are small and insignificant and should connect with the greater forces that dictate our fate, as if we are their test subjects. God, did I write this? A friend of mine reached for his backpack and pulled out a long scarf with some Middle Eastern patterns and threw it over the people. The way the scarf moved below us looked like we were underwater, and the light bullets of green, red, and blue pierced it from time to time. A girl who looked like a cat started dancing next to me. She asked me if I wanted to taste something darker than the swoon of sin and tried to kiss me. I kissed her right back. In that moment of abandonment, there was hardly anything else around for me other than the pressure of her softly parting lips. The way she did it, it felt she was kissing my brain rather than my lips, and I heard us talking at a level that went beyond two people exchanging saliva. I looked around, and there were other people kissing under the scarf, huddling together as if trying to avoid the rays of light. And then, they go home afterwards. But yeah, this is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dragoş. Do they really have parties like that in Hong Kong? Have any of you been to one? Well, you have to read the book to find out what you've been missing. Well done, Dragoş. Thank you. Now we change mood considerably. we published Birgit's first poetry collection some years ago. She was winner of the Proverse Prize then, and we're very delighted and honoured that she offered us her second collection to publish, and here it is, Bliss of Bewilderment. I'd also like to mention her daughter, who has made the very beautiful cover, and the daughter is there, Maya. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Maya. Okay. I have taken this actually from the book, my author's introduction, in which I painstakingly tried to explain my poetry, and I couldn't, which you will find here now again. So, and I just added some quotes from my poems. Bliss of Bewilderment is a collection of poetry that actually depicts inner journeys that I have taken many times. The poems span several years, and it's through this retrospective that I have now that I see actually a recurrent path in my life, and that path is from bewilderment to bliss. Bewilderment is neither chaos nor storm, and neither unhappiness nor fear. Bewilderment is a solitary look into questions, mysteries, loss, and facing the unexpected and the unknown.
Sometimes it's just coming to an end and not knowing the next step, and very often it's the realization that things are not in our control anymore, or simply need to remain unresolved. It could be a sweet confusion, and it is almost always a surprise. It might hurt too, but it is a pain that shows that we are alive, not numb. It takes courage to allow bewilderment to speak, because when we do, we don't always know what to expect next. And here's an excerpt from the poem called Bewilderment. You say, pray for bewilderment, and I am lost in humanity. Heaven is crossed, the earth undercover. I walk my soul, and soon I stumble. I unleash my mind, and quickly I err. My eyes seek a solemn path, and my hands reach for clarity. Silence brews into a storm, raises nature alone to paradise. The moon waits for my gravity. I collect rocks in my pocket, just to stay grounded. But already my heart is whirling in bewilderment. This commotion of the heart is actually the foundation of bliss. Bliss is neither loud nor public. Bliss is what fills the heart when there is a sudden solution, a final thought, a new perception, divine providence, and especially the realization of love and forgiveness. It's a quiet yet dazzling light that calls us back into life, energy, trust, faith, and humanity. Another quote, now around horses' hoofs fallen flowers swirl. In fields out of season, rooted memories sprout. But before the valley of lengthened shadows becomes an industry of thorny thoughts, sudden lightning summons us back into recurrent bliss. Sometimes the path from bewilderment to bliss lies in the recognition of changing seasons and growing faith. Other times it's in the joy one can find in the little things, the sudden stirrings that can light up the soul. Bliss is the joy that builds a home in the heart and helps us live along some distant day into the answer. That's a quote by Rilke. And from my poem called Bliss of Bewilderment, we tend to the garden, find its wilderness, doused in the salmon light of an Indian summer sun. Like final autumn leaves, human beings fall into each other's lives. And hopes rise and fall, like gulls, waves, dunes and tunes. The wide river rushes by all our days of delight, fast, torrential, into hours of perplexity. Something glows slow, slow, until the slow undying of the spring. We rearrange roots, rocks, blossoms, and birds to the best of our blindness, until the dusk chorus sings of the bliss of our last bewilderment. Bliss and bewilderment seems like opposite experiences, and most of us would probably prefer bliss. It is perhaps a privilege of older age to see, in fact, that the two might belong together. As Rumi explained, God turns you from one feeling to another and teaches you by means of opposites, so that you will have two wings to fly and not just one. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Birgit. Thank you very much, Birgit. Bliss of bewilderment. Change the tone again. So my poem, my book, Over the Years, is my 6th poetry collection, and it's got selected poems from the first 5 books. The first one is more or less out of print. I've already mentioned the subtitle, nicely ambiguous, chosen by Werner Bickley, not just the poems. So Werner does academic publications, and he's got 2 books of autobiography. He's also a very successful poetry editor. His 5 selections of poetry, Poems to Enjoy, have been in print ever since, shall I say it, the 1960s. In view of this success, I thought, who better to make a selection of my own poems than Werner Bickley? Recently, Werner and I were in Zhuhai, United International College, where I gave a talk with the title, Writing, Publishing, Being Published. A teaching assistant there referred to some of my poems as urban poetry. Indeed, some of it is. I enjoy looking at people and things, making connections between them, and finding new ideas. But I write about other topics too, the countryside, personal events, reflections, and feelings. I'm going to read just one poem written, dare I say this, in 1972, well before people started talking about the significance of the year 1997. In a sense, this poem encapsulates what I believe all writers desire, to make a record of their experiences, what they value, the times they lived in. So this is called For the Record. And it's after seeing slides of images of old Hong Kong kept in the Hong Kong Public Records Office, then newly established. I think if you've seen old photographs, you know that people had to keep very still because of the shutter speed. But if somebody moved, then either they wouldn't appear at all, or there would be a smudge on the image. So, we sit in a darkened room, gazing at the bright screen, where images of old Hong Kong appear. An eerie silence drains the scenes. Few people, little life that moves, only buildings, low, with colonnades, huge trees, the peak, now lush and verdant, bare like a moonscape. It is cozy in the room, manageable, known, getting the history books in order before new possessors come. People came and went about their business, crossing the lenses of old cameras, but they, intent on things that stayed more permanently, ignored them, made no record. Will the Chinese cameras, moving in terms of centuries, not hours, notice us at all? So that's the end of the readings. I hand over to Werner.
Well, congratulations to all the writers whose books are being launched or featured this evening. Dragoş Ilca, Birgit Linder, Gillian, Bickley, Laura Solomon. Well, as you've heard, these books are all very different from each other, all excellent in very different ways, considerable achievements and milestones in their authors' lives. Do support the authors who have dedicated a great deal of time, thought, and talent to their writing. Equally important, give yourselves the pleasure of meeting them also through their words. Books by all Proverse writers, as we've probably said, are on the book table. Please support all the authors present by buying, purchasing, and buying, reading, enjoying, and commenting on their work. If you ask them, they will sign their books for you tonight. As for those whose poems feature in the Proverse Poetry Prize anthology, Mingled Voices, they will sign next to their poem in the anthology if you ask them to. The student helpers at the book table are there to help you to make your purchases. We thank all the students for their help. They are Miss Ula Chan of Hong Kong Baptist University. Thank you very much. and Mr. William Ng of City University, invited to help by Ula, Mr. Tony Chan and Cindy Leung of Hong Kong College of Technology, kindly arranged, as indeed every year, by Miss Shida Lee Waiman and Miss Liu Wan Tung Vera. You're strongly encouraged to get copies now of what will surely become collector's items, and to get the author's signatures on your copies. Please continue to enjoy the evening. The cash bar and any canapé not yet consumed are available until the close of play at 9 p.m. The books are there to be bought and signed. Thank you very much.
With me here, but the last day was wet and I lost my umbrella.
Oh, did you? Were you the person who left the umbrella behind? So there was an umbrella behind. Oh, it's see, we'll find out. Maybe it's still around.
Thank you very much for coming. Actually, thank you so much. And you're doing well.
Thank you. You didn't ask the question. No, I embarrassed myself. Thank you for coming. Very well. Nice to meet you again.
Yes, indeed.